Welcome to 21st Sports. Week 2's underway, and we are talking to New Orleans Saints at the New York Giants. And their Week 2 matchup played September 18th, 2016. And this was one that beforehand, you thought it was going to be an offensive explosion, lots of points on the board, but you'd be wrong. And that's, as Berman always has said, why they play the games. Because this one turned out quite the opposite, as it was a low-scoring affair. You wouldn't have thought so with Brees and Manning under center, and they were lighting it up through the air. At least Eli Manning was putting up some numbers, but they were not getting in the end zone. We were seeing fumbles and mistakes. We were actually seeing some really good defense by both of these teams, and this one came down to the wire, as close as could be, as the game-winning field goal happened as time expired. And either of these teams could have walked away with the victory. The Giants, they did. They're 2-0, and the Saints are 0-2 after losing another close game last week. They could just as easily be 2-0, but almost only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades, as they say. They came so close, but this is how it went down. First off, you had a blocked field goal run back 65 yards by Janoris Jenkins for the first points of the game. What a wild start. And that was in the second quarter, so 7-0 New York. Then Will Lutz hit a 39-yard field goal for the first points of the day for the Saints to make it 7-3 at the half. Josh Brown added a 48-yard field goal in the third quarter for the only points of the quarter to make it 10-3 as the Giants extended their lead back to a touchdown. And then in the fourth, saw Drew Brees connect with Willie Snead for a 17-yard touchdown to tie this game up at 10 apiece. Then about midway through, Josh Brown hit a 19-yard field goal to give the Giants back the lead up by 3 after having been tied. Of course, the Saints never held the lead in this game. The Giants were always either in the lead or tied, and it would end up tied once again as Will Lutz hit a 45-yard field goal with less than 3 minutes left to play, with the game tied at 13. But then Eli brought them down into field goal range, right on the edge of getting actually into the end zone. They weren't too far out. But with time expiring, they brought out Josh Brown for the 23-yard chip shot, and he knocked it through the uprights for the game-winning field goal, with the final score 16-13 as the Giants walk away victors. And with the 2-0 start, chances are, percentage-wise, that they will end up in the playoffs. Of course, it's not a guarantee, but it's pretty good odds the way things are going, and especially in an NFC East which is wide open. To start off 2-0 is a very strong start for the Giants, especially the way that their defense is playing. You got to give the defense some big credit for them to be able to hold Drew Brees and that high-powered Saints offense to just 13 points. That's quite the defensive performance by the Giants defense. Eli Manning actually put up some big numbers yardage-wise, although they struggled to get into the end zone. Of course, the fumbles hurt them there, as they had 3 fumbles for the offense for the G-Men, and they were 0 for 3 in the red zone. So that's something they're going to have to address. But Eli, the guy is clutch. Even though he was struggling somewhat, not really though. I mean, he had almost 400 yards in the game, but they were struggling in terms of getting the ball into the end zone. But Eli still put them in the position to win when it counted. When it mattered the most, he was clutch. He put them right there in position, in field goal range. Josh Brown did the rest, knocking it through for the game winner. So definitely, of course, the bright spot of the defense for the Giants. And, of course, Eli is Eli. He always comes up big when he has to. But the running game, that's definitely something they're going to have to address, and they're also going to have to work on protecting that football. Those 3 fumbles, they can't continue to just give the ball away like that. But Eli, 32 for 41, 368 passing yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. He did fumble the ball once. Shane Vereen, 14 carries, just 42 yards, although he did have 3 catches for 24 yards, giving him 66 total yards on the day. Shepard had 8 catches for 117 yards, and Cruz with 4 catches for 91 yards. Beckham, 8 catches for 86 yards on the day. And we look at the Saints. Drew Brees 29 for 44, 263 yards, 1 touchdown. On the ground, Mark Ingram just 9 carries for 30 yards as he was shut down. Both defenses shutting down the run in this game. Then, and not really a lot of rushing attempts as it were to begin with, as the Saints only ran the ball 13 times. Rashad Jennings ran 13 times himself. Of course, he only had 27 yards. Vereen, 14 carries. So more than twice as many rushing attempts for the Giants. But Brandon Cooks was the leading receiver for the Saints. 7 catches, 68 yards on the day. And then we look at the defense. And for the Giants, you had Hall with a sack. And then the 3 fumbles were forced by the Saints. Crawley, Vaccaro, and Matai. I probably butchered those names, I apologize. But they forced the fumbles. 22 first downs for the Giants, 16 for the Saints. On third down, the Saints just 3 for 13, just 23%, as the Giants defense shutting down the Saints on third down. And for the G-Men, 7 of 15, 46% on third down, which is decent. Not the greatest, but not so bad. Twice as many conversions, well, more than twice as many, and twice as many percentage-wise over the Saints. And they had a lot more yards, 417 netted to 288. They said not a lot on the ground, 64 to 41 in favor of the Giants. The Giants leading in all these categories. 353 net passing yards for the G-Men to 247. Said both quarterbacks were sacked twice in this game. When you look at the penalties, the Giants, although they were fumbling the ball 3 times, they only had 3 penalties. So penalty-wise, mistake-free, but they got to hold on to that ball. But just 25 penalty yards against the Giants, and the Saints 7 penalties for 76 yards. And I was saying earlier in the red zone, 0 for 3 for the Giants. That's not good. They've got to address that. And then that really comes down to that rushing attack. But 1 for 1 for the Saints in the red zone. And the time of possession, 34 minutes and 7 seconds for the Giants, 25 minutes, 53 seconds for the Saints. So definitely a bright spot of the defensive play by the Giants, and of course Eli as always, but they got to work on that running game. But they're 2-0, and that's really all that matters at the end of the day. And the Saints 0-2 looks to be another long year. Is percentage-wise, if you're 0-2, only 12% chance at making the playoffs. So it's going to be an uphill climb for the Saints. If anything, their defense, actually, that was somewhat of a bright spot that they were able to hold the Giants to just 16, but their defense needs work, and their offense just not getting it going. They need a lot of help there down in New Orleans. They've got some, good players, that's for sure. They got some key components, but like I said, it's going to be an uphill climb the rest of the season, starting off in that 0-2 hole. But let me know what you think in the comment section below. Definitely interested to read your thoughts and opinions. Which plays and performances stuck out to you? Thank you very much for listening. It's greatly appreciated. I hope you're having a good day and had a great weekend. And enjoy all the sports.